Hello, Shoyan here. Now that the new sliding door frames are in, I'm moving on to the flooring, walls, and ceiling. With the sliding doors installed and lockable, the real renovation of the interior can finally begin. Whether it's a big room, small room, or tight space, it always starts with the floor since that's the reference point. Without that, nothing else can move forward. I already removed all the joists, so I'm starting fresh with the frame. This Engawa is 1.2 meters wide and 9 meters long. That's a pretty long stretch for an Engawa. You don't see many houses these days that can spare this much space for one. It's really something special, kind of a luxury. It's about the size of a 6 tatami mat room. I'm laying the planks lengthwise this time, so the joists go crosswise. I mentioned this in the last video, but there's no seal between the structural columns. That means I have to build the floor frame using ledger boards to hang the joists from. I'm not adding a beam down the center. I'm keeping the layout just like it was before the renovation. The ledger planks are secured with screws only. Especially where there's no sill, I fasten them to the beam ends on the room side. As long as they don't sag, it's fine. So I use plenty of screws to make sure they're solid. The outer sill is a bit thinner, but it's strong since it's made of chestnut. It's nice having a solid sill where you can drive screws in anywhere. It gives you peace of mind during installation. Now that the ledger boards are in, it's time to install the joists. Since the joists run crosswise, there are quite a few of them. First, I mark the layout on the ledger boards and figure out how many pieces I need. The space here is tight, so I move to a slightly bigger area and cut all the joists together. There's a shim under the sliding door frames that hits the joists, so I have to notch them a bit to fit up to the frame. I get them done all at once too. Now I'm fastening the joists. Having the layout marked makes it easier. I use 100mm screws to secure them. There are specialty screws made just for joists, but at 100mm long, even standard interior screws hold well enough. I fasten both ends of the joists to the ledger boards. For the center, I use leftover studs. Joists or rafters could work too, but this time I had extra studs. Just one row down the middle keeps everything from sagging and locks it all in place. Now the joists are set. I planned out the plank joints before fastening them. I'm staggering the planks by half their width, spaced evenly at 2 meters. It's a typical offset layout. I measure the actual plank lengths precisely, cut them in another room, and bring them over. I've said this many times, but this last part of the Engawa work is tricky. The area is long, but I can't bring the materials directly into the Engawa. And the day before, we had heavy snow, so I couldn't bring them in from outside either. I had to get permission to go through the middle room and carry each plank in by hand. So I'm cutting and prepping them elsewhere, then bringing them in to install. Working in tight spaces is more challenging than you might think. I start laying the planks from the sliding glass door side. Since there's angle trim attached to the frame, I tuck the planks underneath it. That's why I'm starting from the sliding door side. In the end, I'll be struggling to fit the planks up against the threshold to lock them in. That's just how renovations go. I notch the first plank to fit around the sliding door frame. For the first piece, I try to use the plank at its full length. These are 4-meter planks, and I'm laying them lengthwise by joining the ends. So even if they get trimmed and narrowed, the longer they are, the easier it is to keep the line straight. The first piece is the most important, so I lay it carefully and precisely. I've shown this same flooring method using the same materials in a lot of other videos from this renovation. Whenever I try to show those renovations, the flooring always ends up being the main part. I know I always say the same thing, but I use both glue and screws. The glue is a silicone adhesive, kind of like caulking. Since the joists are close together, I can drive in more screws. Tighter joist spacing means a sturdier floor. For the middle part, it's just a matter of laying the planks and screwing them down. But the last part is always a challenge, no matter how many times I do it. I place the planks next to the threshold, measure the gap to the plank, and mark the position every 45 centimeters. Then I use a straight edge to connect those marks and cut the planks along that line. If even one measurement is slightly off, modifying a single plank can take a lot of work. It takes about 30 minutes to prep. If I mess up the measuring, that plank gets wasted. That's why I take extra care when measuring the ones at the edge. This kind of work is always a one-shot deal. If the plank is too wide and fits too tightly, you can't take it out again. Since I only have one chance, that pressure keeps me on edge, no matter how often I do it. I've driven in the screws through the angle trim and now the floor is done. I cover it to protect it and move on to the ceiling. I'm leaving the original ceiling in place, no need to tear it down and make a mess. The new ceiling will be 2,400 millimeters high. There's enough room for framing and insulation. So the old ceiling stays. I'm installing the ceiling in this Engawa, but you might notice something. My cameraman was out that day, so I filmed it myself. I didn't realize the battery died or that the camera was pointed the wrong way. It's tough to shoot alone while working. When I see other craftsmen post full videos solo, I'm always impressed. I definitely don't have that kind of talent. Now it's finally time for the wall. This wall is long, so I set up the laser in the center and shoot a line across the whole area to mark where the framing goes. Lasers make things a lot easier these days, but in renovations, getting the wall plumb is the toughest part. Using the laser line, I mark where the framing should go around from the floor and ceiling. That's why it's important to install the ceiling first. Then, I place insulation anywhere it's needed. Next, I install horizontal furring strips. But before that, I add a vertical furring strip as a support piece in the center. That acts like a stud, spaced 45 centimeters apart. If I forget to add that before the horizontal strips, I won't be able to fit it in later. I'd have to splice in short pieces, so I make sure to add it first, then install the horizontal strips. After that, I use a shim to adjust the middle furring strip and check if it's straight. Just using the support doesn't guarantee the wall will be straight. I still have to check by eye and make small adjustments to get it as straight as possible. Next, I install the extensions for the window and sliding doors. Now that the furring strips are up, I can measure from the sash or frame to get the right size. I cut the extensions based on those measurements. In renovations, even if you pre-measure for custom parts like extensions, they don't always fit perfectly on site. So I usually put up most of the furring strips first, then take measurements for the window and door jambs. It's tricky installing sliding door extensions in such a tight space. I can't bring in fully assembled ones, so I put them in piece by piece. Once the extensions are in, it feels like the job's almost done. Just hang the drywall and it all starts coming together. Before putting up the drywall, I installed the baseboard first. These are the kind you need to install before the drywall goes in. There was a single 120 centimeter head jamb in this Engawa, and for some reason there was a short wall above it. I removed that, but I can't just leave the messy part and the notch where the head jamb was joined. So I attach a plank with the same width as the structural column. That also helps anchor the ends of the nageshi that runs around the room. The plank might look a bit thick, but I use the darker part of the cedar to help it blend in. Finally, I installed the crown molding. The fit around the transom and head jamb was a little tricky, but I made the molding slightly wider and secured it. That helped balance everything out nicely. Now the floor, ceiling and wall are done, and the Engawa renovation is complete. And with that, the whole renovation is finished too. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.